Nick Sanders, great to have you on Mad TV. You've been traveling around Europe. It's not the first bit of travel you've done. Yeah, what have you been up to?
Well, this is the latest journey. It was going around the edge of Europe, actually, Dave, which is not really the coast, because the coast is essentially where the land surface, meets the sea, and that's a very particular journey. So it wasn't that; it was cut very loosely within 50 to 100 miles of the edge of Europe. I suppose it's probably the longest ride you can possibly do around Europe. In actual fact,
Yeah.
I kind of worked it out once I was halfway around, and I was halfway through my 27,000 kilometers. It was a huge distance. Took me by surprise, to be perfectly honest. It was one of my harder rides, funny enough. It was really geared for a faster bike, and that didn't happen for various reasons. And I've transferred over from Yamaha to Royal Enfield very happily, actually. And the bike is great. It's slower, ostensibly, and therefore everything took 30% longer. Agreed.
I was just thinking of your kilometres then, because London to Sydney for us was 18,000 kilometres. So you could have gone there and back on the route that we we did. So that's a fair whack of kilometres.
It's a little bit like riding around the world in terms of mileage. You're right. Yeah,
I was going to
exactly that.
say,
That took me by
yeah.
surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, so what is the takeaway messages from the Europe trip? What were your experiences that stick in your head?
Well, I went through about 22, 23 countries, really. And what I'm finding is that Europe is a very busy place.
Yeah.
And ostensibly, anything near the edge is near the coast, is near the seaside. And that's where most people want to go for their holidays, for their weekends, for their breakaways. I kind of knew that, but I didn't realize you've got 500 million people shifting around the continent,
Mm.
and I'm getting in the way of it all. So I was, chuffing up and down the backs of caravans and cars and lorries and so forth, which wasn't the best. So I had to weave my way around all of that. Europe's great. And I think really my idea was Europe is a great continent. That there are people who are saying it's perhaps not. Well, it is, and it's a very safe continent, and it's very contrasting and very colourful. And I think this journey will show that. It will show that people can travel around Europe. They don't have to travel around the world at all. They can travel around their locale, their community. It doesn't really matter how far you go. I think that's the spirit of this particular engagement.
So today I put the Bear, as you know, I've got a Bear at the moment as well, and I put the Bear beside the Yamaha Ténéré, and it was like, and it's quite like it is stark. It's like a
Yeah,
big 6 foot 7 inch Zulu against a little pygmy.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and I was thinking, like that stature difference, and but I was thinking my experience on the Bear, and it's been one that's been really positive. Tell me what you've thought of it.
Well, certainly I can flat-foot it on the Bear, and that gives me more confidence to do a little bit gentle off-roading, really. But I mean, it's not an off-road bike, really. It's described as an urban scrambler, and it doesn't compare with a Ducati scrambler or whatever, or anything that Triumph produce. It's for gentle green laning and finding a camping spot in a tufty field. That's what it's there for, and it does that very well. Um, it is heavy. It's 214 kilos, so you've got that to contend with. But what you get with that is a very nice forward momentum once you're traveling. You're not going to quite get the acceleration of a more expensive, faster bike, admittedly, and it's not trying to compare and contrast with that. But that momentum is very, very useful. It's very smooth as well in many respects. So I think the Bear for me, in one word, was a great positive surprise.
Yeah, that naked feel of the bike. It took me a little while, like with the Tenere and other bikes I've ridden, you've got a little bit more protection. That was something that I felt, but just in terms of the engine dynamic, it seemed a little bit slow to take off, and then if you got it going, you got over 6,000 revs. It told you that you were alive.
It puts a smile on your face. Look, you've got to think of it this way. It's got 47 brake horsepower, okay? And I mean, there is a bore kit, actually, which will take it up to, whatever, up to 850cc and give you an extra 20. And that's fine. But you're adding another £3,000, whatever that is in Australian dollars. So you've got to look at the price point, and that makes all the difference. And I'm finding a lot of people are buying into the Bear simply because, A, it's an incredibly robust beast.
Yeah.
It will not break down.
No.
And it's got this lovely retro kind of nostalgic feel to it. You feel you're going back to riding that bike which you bought when you were a kid, you know. It hasn't got all the bells and the bangles and so forth and whatnot. And I quite like that, to be honest. I
Yeah,
like the
it took me back to when I started riding in the 1970s, and I had a Honda XL100. It was very similar feel to this,
yeah,
and when I was riding today, I mean, as I said to you, there's been a lot of rain here and there's a lot of mud, and I was sliding around today on those tires on smooth dirt, nothing too rough, but boy, it was a lot of fun. I went back to 14 again. It was great. But it's like you don't ever feel dominated by it, do you?
no, it's got this thumpy, talky feel to it, really. But I mean, and the vibe that you get from that, which is not excessive, compared to the single cylinder thumpers, which I know about with the Yamaha 660, which I rode to Timbuktu and back, I think at least on two occasions.
Yeah.
And I like the single cylinder. The 660 was a remarkable classic Yamaha. So you don't get that excessive vibration and so forth. It does work, and like you say, you get into about 4 or 5 thousand revs, and it all smooths out. Yeah, no, look, I'm not paid to say it's a wonderful bike when it isn't. That's not what I do.
No.
What I do is choose a vehicle that I really feel, or a manufacturer that I really feel I can do something with, because it's worth doing something with. And as a consequence of that, I might review it sort of, superficially like this with you, but
Yeah.
it's got to be which I can trust.
Yes.
When I'm far away, I always travel solo. That's probably my USP, Dave.
Yeah.
Unlike all the other people that are traveling, the Charlie and Ewans, the couples that are traveling around the world now, people traveling around the world with their mates, which is great. We started all this sort of 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We put the possibility into round the world motorcycling, saying, yes, you too can do it. And people have taken me up on that challenge, which is
I
great.
have.
I'm no longer the only one.
Yeah. So, you've used this bike. When I was talking to Mark Wells about it, he saw it as a 3 day tripper. Where you might do a bit of tar, and like you say, you might just tootle down a gravel road. But you've been living off this bike, what, for months? And
3 months. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
so how have you found that?
Well, it gives you a very direct ride. I'll give you that. I mean, you've got the showy upside down fork, so that adds to an extra particular stiffness, and I have noticed that actually. But I mean, look, you've got to show a componentry. It's very good.
Yeah.
This is a bike which is built with very high spec, actually. From the upside down forks to the paint job.
Mm.
There is nothing I can fault about it. Nothing's chipping off. Nothing's falling off. Nothing's breaking down. So as long as it's not breaking down, Dave, I'm happy. I'm a happy rider because I just need to get from A to B. Like you described, the calligraphy I write around the world as I ride my motorbike.
That's
I
it.
need doesn't give me a problem. I can't fix anything.
Yeah.
I know what I can do, and this bike supplies all my needs.
Yeah, I found today I was riding the bike, and I found the Showa front suspension. Yeah, it is on the firm side, but then again, I was hitting some dirt with some rough roots on it, and the front suspension actually soaked that stuff up. The harder you pushed it, it actually went better. But the rear end was whacking me in the backside like a teacher with a paddle when you'd been a bit errant. Yeah, it was. It's got a roughness to it. I couldn't imagine, as you say, going on any hard dirt with the thing.
No, loose sand and stones will definitely upset the poise of the bear. It's just not meant for that. Really, it's described as an urban scrambler.
Yeah.
It's for gentlemen who want to ride from home to their cafe and have a flat white, which is basically what I was doing on a large scale.
It went a long way for a flat white.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you're camping, how do you camp? Tell me about how you camp on that motorcycle.
Quite interesting you say this because this is quite a hot topic in my head right now. Because I started camping because are partly to do with costs. We're all dealing with costs.
Yeah.
And if you can knock off your hotel bills a little bit, you don't have to camp all the time, then you're suddenly fine. You can go a bit further. You can afford to go a bit further. And so I started wild camping as well, which is another level. Now, I'm not advocating that particularly because you've got to know where you have a right to roam. And in certain countries like Scotland or Norway, you can camp anywhere as long as you're not 150 meters near to a building and habitation. Okay.
Yeah.
So, respect the neighbors and all that sort of thing and leave no trace. Now, once you've done all that, I mean, okay, so therefore you can go to a little campsite, fine. But the point is this: you decide to ride your bike. You don't have to ride it very far. So what you add to the adventure, you add a camping situation. So you get your little tent out, you get your little Bunsen burner stove and all the rest of it, and your pans and your kettles, and you create your little meal. And all of a sudden, you're doing something which is unfamiliar. Now, the personality, the person, the character yourself, it picks up on that. It loves it. It's not been done before. I
Yeah.
haven't camped before. This is great. I've gone home and I've had an adventure. You see, you've got to question, what is adventure?
Yeah.
Adventure is unfamiliar. It's something
Yes.
you haven't done every day.
Yes.
You know, and if you can bolt on something to that at very little cost, then it's a win-win situation.
I know. I saw you there free camping one night, and it was on one of your vlogs. And you had a hunk of steak with you, and you reminded me. I think you did that the way I did. So I would imagine you'd be coming into a township, you'd hunt around, you'd see a supermarket, and you go, right, I'll get a bit of steak for the night, and
Oh dear.
maybe some tinned vegetables if I'm lucky, and then I'll pack that away, and then I'll toodle off and see if I can find a nice secure lane. I don't have to worry about food spoiling or anything like that. Just bang out the steak, cooked it. Don't have to worry about anything else. And then in the morning, I can just start again without doing anything. Is that a fair assumption of what you did?
Absolutely, 100%. In fact, funny enough, in the comments of my little YouTube channel, I've got him. Hasn't he got anywhere to live? I mean, because I was doing it rough like, as you
Yeah,
might in Australia, because you're not very pretty over there. You'll just go out there, get your steak out, eat it, sleep, and then carry on, right? I
that's
get that.
exactly it. Yeah.
Correct. We're not quite like that over here. We're a little bit more fancy pants about our camping. And you have to go to a little camping spot and you have to have a particular type of stove and you've got to eat it a particular way. I get that. My dad says, my son says, I've got to be more of a gentleman adventurer, which doesn't come easy to me, Dave, but I am
Yeah.
working on it. But joking apart, yes, you get your nice little kettle and so forth, and you do it nicely. Have a little fold-away table, have a
Yeah.
nice little fold-away chair,
Yeah.
enjoy yourself, and maybe bring the partner along, and she or he will cook for you.
I could not get my partner along if I paid her $1 million, Nick. It's not happening.
But as you know, mine, Caroline, has ridden on the back of my bike across the Americas and so forth, dear lady. And she gets her tatties out and she cooks for me, and I just have to hang around and wait till my meal's ready.
Oh, I don't know. I must have selected the wrong one.
She's lovely, your Sonia.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a couple of more things I noticed you do, just following up on camping for a minute. And it's something I do too. If the weather's inclement, I try to find a shed or something to boost up my protection. And I noticed, I think you might have been in Spain. I'm not sure where you were, but yeah,
Yeah.
you managed to purloin a shed.
Well, that was because it was raining, and some days you just mess up. You can't find that private camping spot. It's raining, and there are no hotels to book into. I'm not trying to be a hero here.
Yeah,
Yes, and you're absolutely right. You find a tin shed, something like that, bunk up in there. Everybody's happy. But I was getting comments like, is he a hobo? I don't know whether motorcyclists yet are ready quite to take that extra step. And I'm not advocating thousands of bikers go around Europe or England or wherever in the world to wild camp,
yeah.
but I do think they should consider it when they're on their journey. It's great fun, as you well know. Yeah, a
So
bit of it's as simple as that, Dave. You're right. Just bunk up somewhere, cook your food, and there we go.
yeah, you're away. The I was when I was riding the bike today, I started thinking, particularly, with the Ténéré in the shed. Both of us own Ténérés, and we always will. But these bikes are great as well. Um, Do you see the bear as a bridge, if you like, to adventure? I mean, hang on, let's define adventure. Adventure is just being a little bit out of your comfort zone. Adventure is greatly overrated, I think. I think we both agree with that. You know, just like you say, you just park a tent and boom, it's something different. You're thinking different. It changes your perspective of the world.
Unfamiliar.
So with that in mind, I was thinking, the bear is a bridge to adventure for many in Europe, for many places. Even in Australia, there's a lot of trips you could do on that bear where you could camp and you could take it away. But what I'm thinking about is the road bikers. There's a hell of a lot of people transitioning from road bike to off-road now. And what I fear is sometimes they get a bike that's a little bit too tall for them. Like they should make that transition easier. And
Yeah.
yeah, do you see the bear like that?
Well, you might think that the Himalaya 450 is the bike for that, to be honest, and that's
Yes,
a bike I'm going to transition to. So
yes,
we don't want to kind of shoehorn the bear into something which it really
isn't.
isn't.
Yes,
Yeah. So it might not be the ideal bike, to be honest. But what it is, it is a bridge in terms of cost. Let's not forget it. It's half the price, or a third the price of, let's say, the Ducati Scrambler.
yes,
Um, and that's very encouraging these days. Price point is everything. And the second thing is it a robust bike? Is it as good as something you might
mm,
get if you paid a bit more? And it is.
yes.
Will it do anything? No, it's not meant to. Um, is it a nice bike to ride? Yes, it is. Is it got its lovely retro feel? Does it make you feel a bit younger, perhaps? Does it remind you? Does it bridge that gap to when you were a younger rider? Bridge can mean all sorts of things, as you know. And
Yeah.
as you rightly say, Dave, adventure is overrated. You don't have to go around the world. I think I'm qualified to say that. And I think really you can go a short distance and just have as much fun.
So I think you're alluding to the future there. Like what's up the lane for Nick Sanders in the future?
Well, I've signed a 3-year deal with Royal Enfield, and I'm very happy with that. Initially, what am I doing? I'm taking riders to Morocco in September. I'm riding across India in October, November to their big melee in Goa. It's really what we're doing at the moment is kind of. I've started a YouTube channel 40 years too late. I did the very first round the world blog on the internet in 1994 when we all got our domain names, Dave. You
Yeah.
know, and I should have capitalized on it, but I didn't. What the hell? I was just too absorbed by my riding. So we've got my YouTube channels. We've got to build up the numbers for that, and then we're taking I think 8 clients to South America, either on the Bear or the Himalaya 450. And then I think there's talk about me going around the world on one or something
Wow.
sometime next year.
Wow.
And yeah, so I will go around the world. That's a fact. How we're going to do it, I don't quite know yet, but it's going to be over a 2-year period. So obviously,
That'll be the 12th time.
it is actually right. Well done. Yeah, 8 times by motorbike at the moment, 3 by bicycle.
So going back
Yeah.
to India, so have you planned a route into India yet?
No, I think what I need to do is I need to have a bit more focus
Yes.
on where I'm going and how I'm going to do it and what I'm going to see
Mm.
per day. That's obviously evident from what I've been producing at the moment. There wasn't focus. There was no pre-planning as such. It was very random. It had a certain chaos to it, and that can be quite nice too. Sometimes not to be so planned. People plan themselves out of a journey. I've seen it time and time again. By the time they've got to the point to the start line, they've confused themselves or they've
Yeah.
frightened themselves.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I'd like to go to Bhutan. That's all I know at the moment. So shall
So
I
would I.
ride?
I
Yeah.
still
So yeah,
haven't got there.
yes,
I-
exactly. Well, maybe I'll get there before you. Maybe I won't. But it's
Yeah.
certainly a country worth looking at. Definitely. Yeah.
So you would head through Nepal and then uh,
Hmm.
into India. So will you fly
Yeah.
in and then go, or you'd ride
I
from
was
home?
going to go a day, borrow a bike, ride up through Rajasthan, pop into the western edge of Nepal,
Yeah.
ride the length of Kathmandu, maybe pop up into the mountains, come down again and nip into Bhutan, which isn't cheap, and then 2 3 days in there, and then make my way back via New Delhi and see what's what. I think ostensibly it's also acquainting myself with Royal Enfield dealerships in India, building up my audience, and being made useful for the company. Really, I'm like you are. I'm one of their ambassadors,
Yeah.
one of their older ambassadors now. I'm afraid. It seems to be that the one thing I've got which nobody else has is massive amounts of experience.
You've got truckloads.
Yeah, it took me 44 years to get there. So, and it's been very intense traveling, as you know.
So have you ridden the Hemi 450 yet?
No, I haven't. No,
Yeah.
no. You have, haven't you? You like it?
Yeah, I've done a few thousand kilometers in different countries on it now, and it's an indestructible bike. Like we have not had a problem with any of like the reliability of it, and it's just tough, but it's
Yeah,
functional and it works, and
yeah,
it carries your gear well, and it's sure-footed. Yeah, it's quite a, again, for the price, it's quite outstanding. To build a bike for that price of that quality and that reliability, it's quite amazing.
Well, interestingly, you see, they're faced against Honda Hero in India, which, as you know, is a very functional, indestructible bike, which is used by all Indians. But now Royal Enfield are now selling a million, bikes a year. It's a little bit like Skoda, if you think of it as a metaphor. Skoda had a very poor reputation, and I rode the Enfield 30 years ago, and I know how bad it was. The bloody thing broke down every 3 days,
Mm,
and now Skoda have uprated their game and are a very good car. Well, in the same way that Royal Enfield is now an extremely good
mm,
motorbike. And it is actually one of the biggest motorcycle manufacturers in the world, which
mm,
not everybody knows.
mm.
So I've made a good move from a career perspective. I can now move across to a bike I believe in. I
Yes.
wouldn't go with Honda, Suzuki, or whatever, however good they are. I
Mm.
was with Yamaha, and that was it. And I was very loyal to them for 25 years. But this is a time to make that move, and it's given me 3 more years of motorcycle life. And after that, who knows? Who cares really?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Yeah, so interesting times. Goa is crazy. Um, yeah, that is motorverse in Goa
Are you
is
going to?
crazy. Yes,
Are you?
I don't know if I'm going this year, but I went last year, and it was amazing. It's just an amazing event. The Indian bike culture, I haven't experienced of that intensity, all in one place, all loving the same brand. Um, yeah, it's just an amazing thing. I haven't experienced anything like it. It's so uplifting and just so positive. It's so positive. So it's a real treat.
Well, it just goes to show, Dave, that motorcycling is good for for mental health awareness. You take a motorbike away from the man or the woman, and they will struggle. We all might in some ways. Yeah, when I ask a motorcyclist, what do you think about the motorbike? What does it do for you? And the answer is always the same. It's the freedom. It's
Yeah.
the independence it gives me. It's the flowers, the scent I can smell, the things that I can see. I'm very much making my own road movie as opposed to, it being filmed.
Yeah.
I'm the person that it represents and it makes me happy. What more can I say?
Well, Nick Sanders, great talking with you again. And I look forward to catching up with you somewhere in the world sometime. It's always a real treat to meet you in person and have a chat. I think I'm really looking forward to the images you create out of India and Nepal and Bhutan. I sincerely hope I beat you to Bhutan, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. As long as someone gets there and films it on a bike, on a Hemi, that'll do me.
I'll do that for you, Dave. I promise you. If I get there before you, not guaranteed.
Well, Nick Sanders, thanks for being with us, and yeah, I'm really interested in looking forward to the film on the Europe trip with the bear. And yeah, I do have a soft spot for a bear now, but I've got to say my heart is still with the Hemi.
I'm sure it is. Yeah. Well, we can have both, can't we?
Yeah, we can. Okay, Nick Sanders, thanks so much.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. Bye bye.